Alright, time to bring back the Toy Sound series. Hey guys, this is Zach of Captive Portal, and I'm happy to announce that the Toy Sound series is back. For those that don't know, Toy Sounds is a release series that I do where I make an EP's worth amount of songs using a single cheap or toy keyboard. I released the first EP in 2018 using this keyboard, the Casio CA110. I've used this keyboard in a handful of Captive Portal songs in the past, and I wanted to challenge myself and make an entire EP using only this keyboard. After I finished that EP, I wanted to make other releases where I use instruments like this, and this birthed the Toy Sound series. So for the second edition in this series, I used this keyboard. So this is the Casiotone MT-35. It was released in 1984 by Casio. It has 44 keys, 6 tones, and 4 rhythm patterns. It can be powered by 5 AA batteries, or it can be plugged in. It also comes with a speaker and an 1/8" inch output. So 5 years later, after the first EP, Toy Sounds Volume 2 is now available on all streaming platforms. So let's head over to the desk and I'll show you how I built all the tracks. So with this Casiotone here, I was a lot more limited in my sound choices. So as you can see here, there are only 6 tones to choose from, starting with the piano tone, electric piano, organ, oboe, clarinet, and vibraphone. These tones are very in the mid-range. There wasn't much low and high that I could play with. So just going back to piano here, for example, this is what it sounded like in the high end, and then the low end. Some of these songs on this EP, I had to bring the low notes down an octave to get that low end that I needed. So I couldn't get the drum sounds individually. I was only able to get them with the loop presets here. So this is the rock sound, swing, bossa nova, and waltz. So what I did was slow down the tempo a lot and play one of these loops and record it to get the individual sounds. So when I recorded these drum loops, I noticed I only had 4 sounds to choose from for the whole EP. A single kick, snare, closed, and open hi-hat. So all the drums, percussion, sound effects that you hear on this entire EP came from those 4 sounds. So as you're seeing these track breakdowns, you'll notice I have to do a lot of sound manipulation, a lot of saturation, shaping, just a lot of different things to get different sounds that I needed to flesh out a full frequency spectrum of a song. So unlike the other EP where all the songs are the same style and tempo, I wanted to do something different with this one. Each song has a completely different style and sound. I wanted to make it more challenging and see what I can pull off with the more limitations that I had here. So here we go into the first track. So with this first song here, I kind of wanted to make it more bare bones, kind of retro video gamey, kind of giving like a arcade kind of vibe to it. And I didn't want to do as much manipulation and messing with sounds here. I kind of wanted to keep this as true to the original sounds as possible. But I did do some things throughout the track, just a little bit to enhance what was already here. And for the drums, I already knew out the gate that I needed to make them more punchy, get some distortion, saturation, brighten them all because there was no brightness on this entire keyboard. So here's before and after. And since all the tones and drum sounds are in mono, I had to do a lot of playing with things to get that stereo feel that I needed. So for example, the chords originally sounded like this. Added some EQing and distortion. So as you see throughout this EP, I used a lot of distortion and saturation plugins to do more to the sounds. So I played these chords slightly different and changed a little bit of the sound so it kind of gives the stereo feel, and it turned into this. Bass sound, I used the piano sound again, added a lot of low end, trash plugin again, enhanced more of the low end. And with these new punchy drum sounds, I was able to get that fast, staccato, energetic beat. I like this a lot. I knew before I even pressed record on this EP, I wanted to have that type of drum beat in there to start the whole thing off and just give it that punch and energy that I wanted, compared to the last one where it was just very loopy, minimal techno throughout. And later in the song, I did an octave lower of the bass part, so this was the lowest I could do, which does have some low end, but I wanted a little more and get more of a grit that I wanted. So this is the lower octave here. I used the Gralien 2 plugin. I used this a lot on the bass tracks. Without, with, So just a lot of basic distortion throughout, extra chords, some layering behind it. I used oboe a little bit in the background, and then mess with the lead line and do a couple things, and yeah. The most basic track on the whole EP. Just wanted to set the whole thing off in a completely different tone than the last one. So enjoy the song Insert Two Coins.
Nuts on the night.
So this next song was the most difficult to put together. I wanted to do this progressive house song, and it became a bit of a challenge. It had a lot of bumps on the road along the way. And I gotta say, trying to make a modern progressive house styled song was very difficult on this keyboard. Lots of limitations. The end goal with this one was to try to make it as close to a modern progressive house song as I could. I also have to give a big shout out to the PLV community on Discord, who helped me out and gave me a lot of feedback because a lot of them are progressive house producers, and they make a lot of great stuff. Even though it's still rough around the edges, I am happy with the final result. So from the original kick drum, I try to make it more punchy and driving. But that wasn't enough. I needed some high end with it. So I made the high end more punchy, took out all the low end, and I got this. And altogether I got this. And then I wanted to do some of the rise and fall sounds that a lot of EDM songs do. So I took the open hi-hat sound and added a lot of reverb tail on it and printed it a few times. And then I got these different versions. This one I gave him more of a harsh tone. And altogether you get this. And then I wanted to add more texture, just more background stuff. So I used this bubbler plugin and printed it all down. And then I got this. And some other little ear candy sounds like this. And I wanted to have different snare sounds throughout the whole thing. So here's the simple ones in the verses. Layered it up with some other sounds in the clap. Some other stuff in this, like in the drop. And for the drop, I wanted to try some other things. For the snare, I wanted to have like this big powerful hit. The best I was able to get with some extra reverb added was this. A couple other sounds. Some other sounds. Some background percussion. And this is all from the snare track. I made this shaker sound from the open hi-hat and layered that with a close hi-hat with a stereo delay. And I took the open hi-hat and I tried to make it more of a ride cymbal sound, like a TR-909. And here's what the drums sound like on the drop. And I noticed in a lot of progressive house and EDM styled songs that it's very sub heavy, and I wanted to try to emulate that somehow. And the best I was able to do was, again, just drop it down an octave. And the best out of these 6 tones, I noticed that the clarinet was the best one to get the bass sound for this song. But then drop it down an octave. And then layer it with a higher octave, and then I got this. For the verse, there was not that much going on. And I used the piano sound to play some of the chords, but then I used faders to play with the length of the notes. Did some pads. Added this harp in the background. So going with the chords in the drop, I was struggling a lot to get a good heavy sound that I wanted with these very minimal sounds. One plugin that did help me out with some of this layering was this ensemble plugin by Kilohertz. It adds multiple voices without the plugin. Had your basic tone, and then with the 16 voices added. And then I was having some problem with the distortion because I was using the trash plugin again. I played the notes from the chords in separate tracks to give a cleaner sound overall. So it went from this to this. And then here are some of the other layers in the drop. Put it all together and you get this. So some other things in the drop, I did this stereo ARP, this note. In this lead line, I was trying some layering and different sounds, and also was doing a lot of the ensemble stuff just to try to fill out the lead line more, because originally I had this. And as I was working on the drop more, it was getting buried a lot, and I just wanted a more powerful lead sound with it, but with this limitation again. I just did more layering on top of it, and then I got this awesome sound. Did some saturation here. It wasn't enough. I wanted to also add a lower layer of the same thing. And it just got this larger sound that I was happy with. And here's all of it together. So then I wrote some lyrics to this song. Kind of wanted to make it like a party clubby type song. I want to thank my wife Elizabeth for singing on this song and also helping me tweak the lyrics a little bit and the melody lines, because I was almost there, but I needed a little bit of help. While I did use vocals on this song, I wanted to make sure that all the sound sources came from here, so I didn't want to do any additional like vocal chops or anything, because I really wanted to make it be all about this instrument. I did do a couple things, so any little vocal additions, it still sounds like vocals. I'm not trying to like make any synth sounds with it or any additional things. Let's own the night. And here's Own the Night.
It's time to get out, leave this week behind. It's time to get out, live our life and thrive. Get the good vibes, live it out. Make the good times here and now, taking over. It's our turn now, so let's go and be free. What if we just froze the time, living like it's our last night, dancing under city lights? We just want to own the night. We don't care about the time, we just wanna dance all night. Our time is now, let's live our life. Let's own the night, let's own the night. It's time to get out.
So this song was probably the easiest one for me to build, and this one's very chord pad heavy. This song got into the more IDM territory, so going with the drum sounds, basic kick and snare. So I gave the kick a lot more punch in the snare as well. Added some reverb and delay there, and added extra reverb every fourth hit. And with the original kick sound, I added some glitches throughout the drum pattern. And I used the snare sound a lot to get more glitches that I wanted. So I played with some of the sounds, lowered it, sped it up, copied it a bunch, printed that down. And I want to give that a little bit more of a fade out, so I printed that down and added fade here. Kind of gives that delay sound. And for the hi-hat, I wanted it to go super fast and just be all over the place. But I wanted to do more with it, just have the sound play around throughout the entire track. So I used the Isotope Mobius filter on the entire song, and I printed it down so it would be the same throughout each play. And under the hi-hat, I gave the stereo glitch pattern with the same hi-hat sound. I don't remember which plugins I used because I printed it all down. And for the main glitch pattern throughout the whole song, I used the snare track. And I just had it loop throughout the entire song. And then I opened the Mobius filter again through Audio Suite, and then just messing with the overall sound, and then I printed it down a few times, and then comped it a few times throughout the song, and you got this. And here are all the drums put together. And for the bass, I kind of want that typical IDM bass sound where it's like a triangle waveform of sorts. And then I pitched it down an octave and you got this. So with a lot of these sounds here, it's more atmospheric, added lots of reverb and delay. So I hope you guys enjoy this track. This is Strawberries in Your Mind. So for this last song on the EP, I wanted to push the boundaries even more and see what sound manipulation I can do with just this being the sound source. So it started off as a hard, glitchy hip-hop track, and I didn't like it. So from the original demo of the song, the only thing I kept was this. And basically just distorting the chords. So this song is more like a glitchy house kind of thing. I'm not entirely sure. And so for each drop, I wanted to see how many sounds I can make and put in this track. So here are some of the sounds I got. And here's some other sound effects that I got. I played around with the knobs and presets on the Camel Space plugin. Then I printed it all down and did different tones and speeds, and I got this. For the kick, I gave it some punch and I duplicated it with more higher end punch. The snare. I created this clap sound from the snare drum. I used this multi-delay to make it more like a clap sound. I messed around with some other plugins and stuff, and then I got these glitchy tom sounds, and this all came from the original snare track. And then some other tonal things from the snare drum. And then put it all together and you get this. Hope you enjoy the final track. Thank you guys for checking out this video. This EP was a fun challenge to make and I'm happy it's finally released. I want to give a shout out to PS and his net label Enough Records for releasing this EP. I also want to give a quick shout out to my buddy Wiley for getting me this keyboard. I linked a couple of his bands down below for you to check out. This EP is available on all streaming platforms, and you can get this EP and all of my other releases on my Bandcamp page for free download. And now for the first time you can get Toy Sounds Volume 1 and 2 on CD, either on my Bandcamp page or on the make-to-order CD site kunaki.com. The links to everything that I mentioned are available in the description box below. Now that Volume 2 is finally done, it's time to work on the next releases. No more 5-year-long gaps. This is Zach of Captive Portal, and I'll see you guys next time.